Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Dr. Miki Ben-Dor is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out Dr. Ben-Dor's first appearance on episode 77 and also his second appearance on episode 323 of Boundless Body Radio. Dr. Miki Ben-Dor is a paleoanthropologist researching the association between diet during the Paleolithic and human evolution. He specializes in understanding the period of our evolution known as the Stone Age. He retired from his successful career as an economist at age 52 to pursue his passion for learning about the evolution of our species and received his PhD in archaeology from the University of Tel Aviv. He also has a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's degree in business administration. He has released several studies, including his fantastic and critically acclaimed paper called Man the Fat Hunter. He is the author of the book Live Paleo Style: Overcome the Ancestral-Modern Mismatch to Regain Your Natural Wellbeing, which has recently been translated to English from the original text in Hebrew. You can find Dr. Ben-Dor and his blog at www.paleostyle.com and also on Twitter at Ben-Dor-Miki. Dr. Miki Ben-Dor, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah.
It is such an honor to have you. Every time we host you, we learn something new. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. I just really appreciate you and your work. I really appreciate that you got around to translating this work into English. I'm so glad you were able to do that. I told you on the last show that if you weren't going to translate it, I was going to have to go out and learn Hebrew. And fortunately, I don't have to go out and do that now. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Not only did I translate it, but I actually adjusted it. It was it took much more time than I initially, thought it will take, because I didn't really rewrite it, but I edited it very heavily.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You would think you could just plug it into Google Translate and everything would just come out right. But it occurs to me that, yeah, that would be a lot of work. You'd have to rework a lot of the writing and everything to be crystal
Many
clear.
of the examples were like relevant to Israel, but not to the United States. The language had to be changed, not to be like, gender. We have to be gender sensitive, all kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of work, but I'm so glad you were able to do that. The book is fascinating. I'm loving it so far. I'm still not done with it, but I absolutely love it. So thank you so very much for doing that. I know that must have been a lot of work, but it's a really meaningful piece. And we'll talk about that. I want to make sure that we spend the majority of our time talking about your book and some of the concepts that you talk about there. But for the listener who maybe has just come across you for the first time, can you give people a little bit of your introduction and why you got so interested in the topic of our human evolution?
Right. So when I studied at university, I noticed that I came to the conclusion that we are hunter-gatherers that are stuck in a very different environment than the environment that we evolved to be in. And I noticed the differences between me and my wife in the sense of, I'm a little better at navigating, and she's a little better at finding things and at socializing. And so that past helped me a lot in understanding what's happening today. And then I went to work, and like you said, I retired at the age of 52. And I didn't have any particular, aim. I just felt that at one stage the work environment felt so, I don't know, felt so unfit for me that I started to ask myself, actually, why am I working? And I came to the conclusion that I am actually working now to sort of accumulate more, more and more money, which I didn't really need. So I did my calculation and decided to retire. And while at retirement, I decided to go to university and to learn more about hunter-gatherers. and I learned more, but I just went there like, a free listener. And then I decided that it's time to write a book about what I did, about the retirement, and in the light of hunter-gatherers' innate, the thing that we have inside us that caused me to retire may be relevant to other people as well. So I after studying some about hunter-gatherers in university and reading for myself, of course, I wrote this book. And at that time, I decided that I will write a book. I will write also a chapter about paleo diet, because I knew that it exists, but I didn't really. I thought that whatever I was told is correct, and I ate complex carbohydrates, and I thought that's the best thing for me. But then when I started to study, and I realized the catastrophe that's called the guidelines, the nutritional guidelines for the Americans, and the damage that it can cause our health. I stopped eating grains. I stopped eating wheat, and that changed my mental capacity quite substantially. Actually, I was half of the book I wrote with Ritalin, and when I stopped eating wheat, I dropped the Ritalin and I wrote the other half without it.
Wow.
So I came to the conclusion that my ADD, which I suffered from heavily, I did my first class in high school in 4 different schools for 2 years, because I did the first year in basic school. I jumped. I was actually, I knew everything. I knew how to read and write. So I didn't do the first year. So all in all, I did whatever, 12 years, whatever you do. But the first year in high school, I was so loaded with ADD that I had to do it twice with 4 schools.
Wow.
So I was in terrible shape until I discovered that I have ADD through my son, actually. And then I started taking Ritalin. And after stopping gluten, the Ritalin didn't have any effect anymore.
Wow.
So I decided that that's what I should do, that I should help. If the best way to help other people would be to bring paleo to Israel, because there was much on it in English, but there was nothing in Hebrew. So I opened the blog and I started spreading the news in Israel in Hebrew. And and when I published the book, I brought a copy to the professor at the university, and he said, "Oh, why don't you come to one of my seminars?" So I came to the seminar, and to cut a long story short, I was on my way to do a PhD in paleoanthropology because I wanted to be, to have a serious audience and to know as much as I can scientifically about the subject. So that's the background.
That's amazing. It's just one of my favorite stories that you would, stop and really be mindful and ask yourself, why am I still working? Come to the conclusion that you're working just to acquire more things, more possessions, or just simply more money, more zeros in a bank account. And to be able to have that realization and say, wait a second, let's reevaluate, let's reallocate my resources. And now here you are, more than 10 years later, thriving, doing what you absolutely love and sharing your message with so much passion and energy. It's just one of my favorite stories. I absolutely love it. So cool.
Yeah, I must say, that I was a little bit lucky because I did manage to make some money in the stock exchange. So I had some money, but I had to live in a calculated way. It's not that like I was so rich, but anyway, I don't think that anybody can do it. But But I think that many people can do it, they don't do it because they are afraid, and they can't, they don't calculate really how much they will need, so that's why I wrote the book in the first place. The book had in the Hebrew, I didn't bring it into the English version. It had like also a chapter about how to calculate. Actually, because I'm an economist, so I can calculate. I have a nice spreadsheet that tells me any day I know what yield I have to make on my money to live, and I put like 95 years old. I had to put a year there, an age, because for the for the spreadsheet to work. So it's also, it's funny, but it forces you to look. So I put 95 years old. I don't think I will make it, but my wife made.
Well, you keep eating the way that you're eating. You might go to 120. You may need to adjust it the other way.
No, I have terrible genes. Terrible, terrible. My father had a heart attack. My two brothers had heart problems. No, we are terrible. So I don't think that I will make the 95. But my wife may, because her aunt did it. So she might.
Wow. Well, I'm not much of a betting man, but if I were, I would probably bet that you would outlive 95 for sure. So I'm glad you changed that calculation. And one word.
Unfortunately, I started the carnivore at 50. It's not carnivore, I started paleo, but it was close to carnivore all the time.
Yeah.
I was 58. So I wish I knew it before. I wish.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I'm talking to some of the, younger carnivores that are coming to the diet in their teenage years or early 20s, it's just like, wow, I'm so jealous. Like, I wish I could trade these places because you're just going to thrive and excel. It's great.
Right.
Yeah. You used an interesting word when you were talking about possessions and what you were seeing from your spreadsheet. You used the word need. And I think a lot of us throw that word around without really understanding, what do you truly need? What do you truly need? And I think so many of us are putting so much money into, an expensive car or the latest iPhone or like all these possessions, from all the advertisement that we get bombarded by. And it's like, when you step back and you realize, what do you actually need? That can be pretty shockingly low. You really don't need that many things, do you?
Yeah, I have a chapter on simplicity in the book. I didn't invent simplicity. I mean, this is a movement that has existed for quite a while now, and they have the principles and etc. But some people can live on very, very low. It's just a matter of what you think about it, and what are the important things to you. And it changes from person to person, and I don't want to say that this is the way you should live. Everybody should decide what's important for them. Some people, if they don't travel abroad 5 times a year, they feel like they are missing something. Other people don't care. They can live in the same place for their whole life in one small island, and they like it. So people are different. But yeah, what you're right in the sense. I mean, we have culture, and this, of course, appears a lot in the book. What is the effect of culture on us? Because hunter-gatherers, of course, which are the model in the book, didn't have the kind of culture that we have. Now, the culture actually is a way of letting us live in a different world than the one that we evolved. And it makes sure that people want more, because this is the basic of everything here. Fashion, take fashion, for example. Yeah. Just imagine how much clothes, furniture, cars, whatever is the subject for fashion, we would have bought or we would have purchased if we didn't have advertising. I mean, without advertising, without advertising, you don't have fashion. So without fashion, without the change of clothes, I mean, a shirt can last for God knows how many years. I have some that are maybe 20, or even more, 30 years old. I have an LL Bean red shirt. Do you know these shirts? This is like a very thick shirt from Maine. I bought it when I came to the States. I lived for 5 years in the States between 85 and 90. And I bought that shirt. So 85 until today, how much is it? I 15 plus 22. Yeah, it's 30, what, 37 years, 38 years.
Yeah,
I have the shirt and it's still working. It's still wearable. I don't know if it's fashionable, but we are buying maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 times what we actually need because of fashion in many items.
Yeah. Wow, so interesting. That's such a good point. And you're right. Like, how many shirts can you wear at one time? You can only wear one at one time anyway. And you're right, we just stockpile all this stuff, which you contrast really well. I love the example you use in the beginning of the book of using a compass that points towards north. It doesn't mean even that you're traveling north, but you use that as a reference point to be able to then determine which direction you want to go. And very early on, after making that comparison, you also introduce us to Adam. Can you tell us who Adam is? And can you tell us why you decided to use him as that compass as a reference point?
Right. Adam is the model. Adam, we all have Adam in our core. Adam is the human who lives in a small group, 25 people or so, in equality, in maximum autonomy, and maximum authenticity. In other words, he doesn't have to present an ego. And even if he wanted, he just couldn't because everybody knows him since he was born. There's no way he can sort of present something that he is not. So, and everybody is equal. Because, and this is why humans are, in this way, humans are different than chimpanzees, for instance, that are also very social, but they have a hierarchical system. And we have an equal system. This is equality is maintained very, very strongly, very, very meticulously by the group. If somebody starts to brag, he will be laughed at until he stops. If somebody gains something special, immediately people force him to give it away. So equality, they are very, very sensitive about equality. And that equality also allows autonomy. Now, of course, they have to cooperate, but Adam have no problem in cooperating, have no problem in sharing. The human group, hunters, reach a stage where they can actually supply the calories that they consume, okay, at the age of 20. So there are 20 years in which somebody else has to give them food that he acquired. And so in every group of like 25, 30 people, there are maybe 10, 15 people that had to be fed by other people. Now, so people actually, and this is like in every single hunter-gatherer group, nomad hunter-gatherer groups, that was studied, that the sharing thing existed. And when we think about it, they don't own nature. So nobody owns. So when you catch an animal, it's not your animal. You caught an animal that is actually nature gave you in order to survive. So there's no problem for you to share it with other people. It's not yours. So the whole concept of of owning something is just not there. Adam doesn't own anything. He owns what? A stone tool that is, it's worth nothing. And everybody in the group knows how to make the stone tools. So he doesn't have anything. And if they don't have it, he is actually, he will lend it, or if he doesn't have it, somebody else will lend it to him. So nobody actually, they're all independent in a way, because people have to share with them and people have to lend them, and they don't own it. Nobody owns anything. So it's a different way of thinking. And this is Adam, and this is what we have. And we evolve, and I believe strongly that equality is in our genes. And the sense and the need for autonomy is in our genes. I don't know if you know, but in Israel today, there are many demonstrations. They want to change the way that judges are elected. And people feel that democracy is in danger. And you should see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in the streets shouting and demonstrating, like I think this is already the 7th week. Because people don't agree. People want to be equal. Now we accept an inequality, because the capitalism is actually based on inequality. I mean, if there was no inequality, inequality is the motor of capitalism.
That's right.
You want to have more. Then actually it's more than the neighbor. Yeah. So and I must say right from the beginning that I don't, I don't try to change the way that from in my opinion, capitalism, as bad as it is, maybe the only way that that we can maintain, like God knows, 6 billion people on this earth.
Yeah.
So I don't say that the solution is to change the the social system, but I'm just talking about the person. I'm just talking, and first of all, you have to know Adam. You have to know what's in you, and you have to realize that the culture, the things that culture put on you, is just an external layer, okay, that is necessary to discipline you, because the systems are becoming more and more complicated, and because they're so complicated, everybody plays a smaller and smaller part in them, and you have to be coordinated with others. So you have to discipline. You have to have a discipline.
Yeah.
But the first thing is to be aware of it. I'm talking about in the book about shame and pride. Okay, what is shame and pride? These are tools of the culture to discipline you. Yeah, you're told that these are shameful things to do, and these are, the best thing to do. Sorry. And as soon as you understand that, and as soon as for instance, as far as shame is concerned, yeah, as soon as you're ready to admit some of your weaknesses, the opportunities for you to be or the cases in which you have to feel shame decline quite substantially. I mean, the more you admit your weaknesses, the less shameful you can be.
That's right.
The less shameful you can be is the more autonomous you can be, because you're not dependent on other people's opinion. Pride is in my opinion, is the most ridiculous form. Because what are you proud about? I mean, you were born with the abilities or with a family that could afford education. Okay, maybe you're smarter than other people. I mean, what is the difference between smarter people and more beautiful? I mean, it's nothing. It's just something that the cards that you were, dealt when you were born. So being proud of that is silly. So as long as you don't look for pride and look for reasons to be, like to brag, and as long as you are not subject to shame, all of a sudden you realize that your level of autonomy is much higher because you are not acting to meet the expectations of other people. You meet the expectations of yourself.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, that's a long answer for Adam. This is Adam. Adam didn't have pride. He didn't have shame. Adam was equal. Adam was autonomous. And just know that this is in you and find it and try to connect with it.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And when I read about Adam, there's an internal sense of craving, of missing out on something. You read about like a wonderful normal day of his where you collect the food and that doesn't take very long. It's not a lot of work and there's a lot of love and embracing other people and welcoming people from other tribes. And we could talk about this and say like, look, we actually don't truly know how humans evolved through the Paleolithic. But this is also based on more modern study that was done in hunter-gatherer cultures that were allowed to continue probably until very recently living the way that they were living. And the descriptions that you hear is just life is wonderful. It's paradise, like you say. Like this life is paradise. You think that humans have been struggling mightily for years to try to scrape by and just get by and survive all the ice ages that we went through, and it just never seems to be the case. We would have had to thrive. We would have had to be kicking ass to be able to reproduce. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And just again, the descriptions of how we used to be, it's like a wistful kind of a feeling of like, I really want to experience that. It's just so difficult in the modern world.
Yeah, it's a deep sense of, belonging to nature. When you look around at animals, I mean, they don't, I mean, sometimes they're under stress. And I'm sure humans were under stress too. They were like, the rain didn't come and all that stuff. But mostly they're happy. In the Weston's Price book, Nutrition and what is it called? Some degeneration. I don't remember.
Physical degeneration.
Yeah, physical degeneration. He quotes somebody, a white guy from Uganda, who was working in Uganda in the 20s, okay? And he says that this is the way the way that the Ugandans at that time lived, okay? For him, this is the way he would love to live because they're happy. And this is like paradise. So yeah, the book now used to be called in Israel, it used to be called Sneaking into Paradise. So, but now I change it to Live Paleo Style.
Yeah. Wow. Well, the message is amazing. You've already talked about some of the characteristics that we would have had as we would have evolved. And there's a few here that I don't hear you talk about often that was really curious about. Like short-term achievable targets. That's very interesting. A lot of us find ourselves in jobs professionally where we are working on something, a piece of something that's bigger than us, yet you never really see the finished product. It could be an
Right.
assembly line, it could be a software engineer, it could be anybody within a big organization. You're only really hyper focused on the one thing that you're doing, and at the end of the day you do your thing and it kind of just goes away and you have to keep repeating the same thing over and over again. So I'm wondering how you think about and why you included short-term achievable targets.
Because again, this is what, when you live as a hunter-gatherer, I mean, you don't produce anything to sell, right? You produce things that you can use. And usually they are very simple. So even if you, let's say, produce something that's very complicated, like bow and arrows, okay, maybe it will take like 2 or 3 days of work, and you will have a set, you will have bow and set of arrows that you can use, and you will use them. And if you did a good job, they will be good. And if you did a lousy job, you will pay for it. But you have the feedback, okay? It's something that I had a target, I had something to do, and I did it, and it's done. Now, with us, it's not only that we are, most of the times we are making a very small part of the whole job, but even if we do, but the time span from, doing something and getting the reward for it are longer, much, much longer. So what I suggest is to try to find things that give you immediate or close satisfaction that you can use, or you can, even if you can sell, but, things that are like this podcast. This is a good thing, good example of something that's short term. So you do a podcast and you see the results in, I don't know, it get published in 2 weeks or so. Okay, so you have something, you did it right from the beginning, from nothing. You thought about, who to invite. You did the work and you publish it. So this is something that must give you, very high degree of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Compared to working in a big organization, doing something and being dependent on, this is, by the way, what most, one of the things that I didn't like at work is that this dependence on other people in other, stages of the, because I used to be in marketing. And marketing, you market products that others do, and others ship. It was a physical product, so it has to be shipped, and it was chemicals, so it was dangerous. So the shipping was very, complicated, etc., etc. The end result is you are depending on so many people, or the product itself depends on so many people to come from, from zero to the customer. That even if you did your job 100%, in the end, you may meet the customer and he shows you, the shit, sorry, that he was sent. And, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. So as long as you can do things that are independent and short, of course, you get much more satisfaction.
Yeah.
And
I
more,
can sort of,
sorry, and the reason you get more satisfaction is because this is how we are built. We are built to have short response, short rounds of feedback. This is the way we are built. We evolved, human evolved for about 2.5 million years, 2 million years, depending, some people say, but it doesn't matter. this is like 99.5% of the evolution took place in a completely different setup that we have
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. And I can certainly attest to that, spending most of my career working for a large corporation. And you know what? It took a pandemic. It took a global pandemic for the gym to close down and for us to lose our clients and have to rethink what we were going to do. So when we started our business, we did introduce that sense of like, I'm no longer working to pay somebody else's bills. I'm no longer part of a staff that they could just fire at any point if you didn't do your task appropriately. It's difficult in some ways. You have to learn how to manage your time and you have to become efficient at certain things, but you do get a much better sense of accomplishment. And you're right, like doing this podcast, like this takes a lot of time. This costs me a lot of money. I pay for this out of pocket. And it's only because I get to talk with amazing people like you and create something, like you said, that has never been created and share it out in the world. And that's checking all of those boxes of the things we've already talked about, as far as like that's part of our humanity, and understanding that, being aware of it, like you said, understanding Adam and his story and how we evolved for all of the 99.5% of our evolution, like you explained. Really, it's true, it works. You feel good doing those things. So that's a great point.
Yeah, yeah. It's and people, you know what? You need courage to do what you did. Okay, and you know, again, if you look at Adam, he must have had courage, and otherwise he wouldn't be able to hunt animals. But today we are so dependent on other people, and we actually don't exercise this ability to be courageous. So yeah, and then you know you need because if you want to change, you need courage. Courage. I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, but and yeah, I mean you can do it. I mean, I don't know if anybody can do it. Everybody can do it. I mean, I don't want to be to sound too smart. There are people, people have many circumstances in their lives. My wife is a psychotherapist, and I hear stories like you wouldn't believe the things that people go through, and the life that they have, and it's so difficult sometimes. So I don't want to be like patronizing, but I think that once you know what is your innate character is, and what is because this is also point to the potential. Okay, at least first of all, get to know the Adam, get to know the basics of your nature, and then everybody in his little corner can decide. And I don't think that he needs much guidance, as long as you know, okay, this is the best thing. This is what what we are born with, and this has been covered with a layer of culture. Is it still necessary to maintain that layer? Is it still necessary to maintain that ego? Is it still necessary to maintain like a Superman persona? So ask the questions, like I did when I said, is it still necessary for me to work? And once you ask the questions, you will find that even the small, like I give an example of one of the things that people can do for sometimes to enjoy a little bit of autonomy, temporary autonomy, is adopt more spontaneity. So instead of planning the trip a year in advance, try to take a trip that you just decided on the spot, maybe a week in advance, and go. It's not that it's better than to plan it for a year in advance. You may get better prices and all that stuff, in year advance. But once you make a spontaneous decision, and you do something spontaneously, you feel, you feel some sense of autonomy. So this is a small thing, very temporary, that almost everybody can do in his life, and will help him. I think he will feel better.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you specifically about that one. There's obviously lots of talking points in your books, but the spontaneity thing really jumped out at me as a major theme, and one that I had probably not considered enough. It was one of my favorite things from the sheet that you sent me with the review of the book last year that has really stood out to me. And you're right, that is a very simple thing to do. Even a trip is like kind of a big major thing. Think about driving home from work. Think about going on a walk. I do it all the time when I go on a walk. Like, yeah, there's the most direct way that I can walk up to the lake near our house. But sometimes it's fun to take side streets or have a little adventure through a park or play around somewhere. Even going on that trip, think about like stopping at all the scenic sites and reading the little plaques that talk about the views. Like, there's so many different ways to work that into your day-to-day life where you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to go live in the cave and be making, arrows to kill your prey. You can incorporate these things with that awareness, like you say, and implement them today. And spontaneity, I thought, was one of the most standout themes that I absolutely love from your book.
Yeah, I think it works. I do it myself. So I know that it works. It works for me, and it should work for anybody. That the hunter-gatherers, for instance, don't plan. All this planning thing, I mean, they are very spontaneous. If you ask somebody how many times a week, next week, are you going to hunt, he won't be able to tell you. He wakes up in the morning and he feels like hunting. And by the way, if you talk about autonomy, okay, he will stand up and he will say, I'm going hunting. He will never, ever tell somebody else to come with him. It's just impossible. It's not done. If somebody wants to come with him, he will say, okay, can I come with you? So sure, come with me. That's how it works. So they are spontaneous. Okay, they have to get the food. So surely, one day they will have to go, but they're still very spontaneous in when they are going to do it. Sometimes they see, I had a streak of bad luck. Maybe I shouldn't go in the next week. So they don't. That's also spontaneity. They take vacation, yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about it, and this is also a burden on many people, is the story of meaning. Yeah. I think this is also something like cultural thing that is sitting on us. Because if you go to Adam and ask him, what is the meaning of your life? He just won't understand. What are you talking about? What the hell? What meaning? I don't know. The meaning is to get the next hunt, to get the next animal. This is the meaning. So for 99.5% of our evolution, we lived without meaning. And we were happy. So maybe we can be happy now without meaning.
Yeah, man.
But he did have a meaning. Only he didn't know. It was so natural that he didn't know. And I'm referring to helping other people. So if you live in a group, I visited the Hadza about a year and a half ago, and I saw the young kids holding the babies. They were like fighting who is going to hold the baby, and anything that should be done is done. People just understand that for the group to function, everybody has to help other people. And this is evolution. The groups where people didn't help each other didn't survive. So we have the people who have a tendency to help. So he had a meaning. The meaning was to make the group, survive or happy, to help. So what I'm saying is that when you're looking for meaning, I mean, some people get meaning from building a company, building a new product, and they don't think about exactly that this product will help others. They just think about how much money they're going to make. And that's fine too. But most people don't have that, ability or that opportunity. Most people help, but most people can help. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can help.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for meaning, just look for ways to help and start by doing it. I mean, going and volunteering or help in any other way in any way that you want. When you start to do it, and the meaning comes with a commitment. So you do, and after a while you're committed to, and you get involved, and you know more people, and you see how the feedback is so positive, and so all of a sudden, without knowing it, without the meaning emerges. Yeah, meaning is something that emerges from your actions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the meaning. But that's the meaning that Adam had. Only, of course, not in a group, but in our environments.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, I learned that lesson very early on in my personal training career when I didn't have a lot of clients. I didn't have a lot going on. The days that I would make no money by giving away free sessions versus days that I would be very busy, working with my people and hopefully helping them, but making more money, I would be just as happy on the days where I made literally no money, but I got to see people and help people, and I got to work on my craft and my delivery and the different exercises I gave people. It's funny, like the dollar amount doesn't ever really seem to matter as much as we think it does, but we take so much satisfaction out of doing just that and helping. And you're right, like to think like I'm going to leave a legacy, or this is my name is going to live on, or I'm going to create something that is going to generations are going to talk about. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to. Tell me
Yeah.
your great great grandfather's name. What did he do? What did he leave? And like, it's nothing. It's so for our ego, it's really damaging, but also it's so empowering that we can just understand that our meaning is to help. It's to enjoy the day. It's to not worry so much about things, and we can contribute while we're here for a very short amount of time, and that's enough. And that's so empowering. It's such a great message.
Yeah, you mentioned there's a small poem in the book. When I retired, actually the first thing that I did was trying to study how to write poems, and I went to the best poets in Israel to study. But after a while, I decided that's not my vocation, and I'm not going to make a big difference to the Israeli poetry scenery. So I left it. But I did write some poems, and one of them is about my great-great-grandfather, Zygmunt Wolf, who lived I'm not sure where exactly, in Bohemia somewhere, Czechoslovakia, Austria. And I found his name on a tree, in the family tree, okay, that a cousin of mine created. He was into genetics, so he decided to go and do like a family tree. And I found his name. That's how I know he existed. I didn't know him before. I hardly knew the name of my grandfather because he died in Auschwitz in the Nazis.
Wow.
So I didn't have any grandfathers or grandmothers. But I got this list. I got this family tree, and I'm looking and saying, well, I have the name of my great-great-grandfather. So what? I mean, I don't know anything about it. I don't know
Right.
if was he a good person? Was he a bad person? Was he whatever, a murderer? Or was he a saint? I don't know. but that made you free, because made me, felt so free, because now I was sure that nobody is going to remember me too. So
Yeah.
I could do whatever I want. I don't have to live for the next generations. That idea, I don't even know what is the best thing for the next generation to do, to be. I have to live for my generation.
Yep. Yep.
And just this one little life, to do the best I can do, or help people and get the meanings through them.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
It's really beautiful. It's empowering. I absolutely love that. When you wrote this book, it's been a few years since you originally wrote it. You talked about revising it and translating it and everything else. But in that time, you've also conducted amazing research with papers, Man the Fat Hunter. You did Are We Carnivore, which was fantastic. What things have you changed your mind about since originally writing this book as it comes to human nutrition and how we should be feeding ourselves today as that relates to how we evolved as well?
Yeah. What I changed my mind about, one thing was fruits. I thought that fruits are like sugar on the tree. Uh, and when thinking about it more and learning and studying more, I realized that humans ate, fruits, uh, first of all, as monkeys on the trees 7 million years ago. So, and then also to some extent, when we were terrestrial animals. And and also fruits don't grow toxins, because really they are dependent on the seed getting dispersed by the animal that eat the fruit. So actually, it's very unlikely that it will have anything that's bad for us. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to be fruitarians like Steve Jobs. But if we eat one apple a day, nothing. It can't be that bad for you.
Yeah.
That's something that I changed my mind about. If you would ask me at the beginning, I would say don't touch fruits. But I think this is something that if you want something specific, that I changed. The problem with the other carbohydrates is that they come from seeds mostly, and seeds don't like to be eaten. So we have to have a lot of preparation. And funny, I mean, if you follow it, actually we learned how to deal with it. And Weston Price found very healthy societies that relied on eating seeds, but they spent a lot of time preparing and getting rid of the toxins. So, and today we live in an industrialized food system, and the companies that produce the food, they don't care one bit about preparing the food. Bill Schindler, of course, with his concentration on the traditional method of preparation of food, nixtamalization and fermentation, soaking, sprouting. We do nothing of that kind anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say, yeah, if I don't think that fruits, in a reasonable amount, are bad for us. But I would be very careful with other types of plant material.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I've been making it a habit in the last year or two of anytime I'm moving through a natural landscape, I'm trying to look at what foods I could eat, that I could take off the land and I could live on. And even in very natural environments, it really is shocking how few plant foods are actually edible, even with preparation. Fruit is a really great example of a food that is given to us. I totally agree. It's a pretty much benign type of a carbohydrate, usually really safe. I took a camping trip this year at the end of summer up in the mountains, and there were two different groups of peoples that I was observing. I thought it was very interesting. One of them found a berry patch that had a bush with berries on it, and they spent, it was a good hour, hour and a half of picking blueberries off of this bush, and they came away with maybe like 2 handfuls total of berries that they collected. So it wasn't a lot. The berries were very small. They had to work quite a bit to get them. Another couple just kind of down the trail for them was on the lake, and they were fishing. They were this guy was good. He was catching a fish like efficiently, like every 5 to 10 minutes they were pulling a fish out of this lake. And it's like, okay, first of all, understanding the difference between how much work you're going to do and how you're going to obtain your calories is vastly different between those two things. And then also understanding that blueberry bush, it's a week. There may be 1 week out of the entire year where it's giving you fruit. It doesn't just keep growing more and more fruit. And so there's a time window there. Our availability for those things is just so different now. And exactly what you said, like we combined it with all these bad carbohydrates that come from seeds. That's really where the problem is. If you're eating fruit normally and not going excessively, and understanding that maybe to be the very best, you do it seasonally or eat the things around you. I thought that was a really interesting contrast. So I totally agree with you with the fruit. I think it's interesting that you came around a little bit differently on that.
Yeah, I also think about it that the fact that on the fruit there's competition. I mean, the humans were not alone. First of all, they have a disadvantage compared to chimpanzees or other monkeys that they cannot climb as easily as the others. So fruits usually grow on trees, and humans were not that that adjusted anymore to climb on trees because they became adjusted to run and throw stones and spears. So the hand, the shoulders, everything became different. So we had a disadvantage as far as climbing trees. So and of course there was competition. But you made a very important point, and this is like such a crucial point that people ignore. And this is about the return, the energetic return on obtaining fish or meat compared to plants. And just that point alone should have convinced everybody that we were carnivores. Following recent hunter-gatherers, there were scientists actually with a stopwatch and a calorimeter, and they used to calculate the net energetic return on hunting and on collecting plants, all kind of plants, seeds, fruits, etc. So I have a paper actually in the making on this. The results are that hunting provides more than 10 times the return than plants do.
Wow.
Per hour. Now, we talked about it before. Okay, humans had to support other people in the group. So there's no way that they could do it by relying on plants. They had to rely on hunting. The proof is that when they had to start to rely more and more on plants, they had to go to agriculture, and they had to increase the abundance and reliability and be able to store the plants, okay, in order to base part of their consumption, a sizable part, on plants. There is no way that, there's a very successful scientist by the name of Hermann Ponzer, who just and he is really one of the. He's very young, but he's really, I think, on his way to a Nobel. If there is a Nobel in his area, I'm not sure. But he's sort of concentrating on energy and what we can learn from energy and humans about humans. And he just published a paper, I think it was in Science, which is really like publishing papers in Sciences like you wouldn't believe. Other people, like other scientists, if they publish one paper in their life in Science, make a big deal about it. But he does, and every year. Anyway, he found out that humans evolved to have a high risk, high return strategy. And he writes in the, I mean, it's not only him, it's a team, that the hunting gathering was a high risk, high return compared to previous hominins that, that was only low risk, low return policy, strategy. But if you think about it, the high risk, high return is the hunting. It's not the gathering. The gathering is a low risk, low return. And the humans, but I don't know, because it's politically correct or because he didn't, think about it. I don't know. But he found that hunting was the major strategy of humans. But you're right, hunting and gathering. So, it's frustrating at times. So now I have to write a paper about it.
Great. Great.
But it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But the difference in return that you noticed is basic, and it also shows that we were not flexible. And this is the problem, because most paleoanthropologists think that humans are so smart that we were flexible. I mean, depending on the conditions, we could take either plants or animals, whatever, okay, if there was a drought, we took this. If there was little drought, we took that. In the north, we do this. In the south, we could do that. And they look at the present hunter-gatherers, and they say, look how, in the Hadza, near the equator, they eat 30% meat, and in the North Pole, they eat 100% meat. So humans are so flexible, but they are not. They are not. Because of the return, because of the difference in return, it just cannot be that flexible. You have to be, the people that you do, the Hadza, for instance, that you see today, they have like about 30% of their calories come from the baobab tree, the fruits of the baobab tree, and the bees that live on the baobab tree. But if you have elephants around, there are no baobab. They hate baobab trees. They just kill them one by one. And so you go to a completely new situation today without the elephants and without other big animals. And their alternative is to hunt a monkey here and there, a baboon, yeah? And then it's just not the correct analogy. You can't do that analogy. Anyway, that's a long story, just to tell you how important this energy, because this is the way. It's like, because I'm an economist, okay? In economy, we say that follow the money. If you want to understand things, processes and phenomena in economy, you follow the money. If you want to understand evolution, follow the energy.
Follow the energy. I love that. I'm so glad you have to write this paper. I know it's probably a lot of work for you, but for the rest of us, we get to enjoy your work and your message, which is just so awesome. I absolutely love talking to you for all the conversations we've had. It's been so entertaining. I always come away with something. Your book is great. Live Paleo Style is really great. I'm excited and looking forward to finishing the book. You wrote it in a way that's very practical. You give advice for people that they can, like you said earlier, have some awareness around and can start to bring a few things into their lives and be more mindful about those things. And so I just absolutely love your content. I'm so glad the book was translated into English. Dr. Miki Ben-Dor, where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you in your work and pick up the book?
Okay, the book is on Amazon, but and it's in in print form. It's in Kindle. There was a little problem with Kindle at the beginning, but now it's fixed. And it's also in audio. What do you call it? Audiobook. Yeah, audiobook, Audible. But also it's available in other venues apart from Amazon. And I had a little fight with them on the audio book, but in the end they agreed not to do it on an exclusive basis, so I can offer it in other places for. And so if you go to my blog, which is paleostyle.com, I have links to Amazon and I have links to other venues where you can get a PDF. You can also buy a PDF. So it's available in every, possible form. Yeah, it's on my blog. I think this is the way to go.
That's fantastic. We will be sure to link that in the show notes. Again, Dr. Miki Ben-Dor, thank you for all of your research. Thank you for creating this wonderful content and sharing it with others. We're so grateful for you and everything that you do and for taking the time to be on our show today. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.